for all of high school. And then as I went into college, I was playing soccer. Shin splints basically haunted me because every time I thought they were gone, they would just start to come back. And then I would be like, I can't run. I would start playing worse. My touch on the ball would be worse. And it just affected pretty much everything I did with sports. So when I started training, I wanted to work on those first. And so I studied a ton. I started to realize that all the stuff people tell you about this, rest, ice, compress, elevate, it's just to treat the symptoms and it's not actually getting the root cause. So I made a whole series that goes over each of these categories in full depth. But if you want to know the top 3 exercises for each step of rebuilding the shins, that's what this video is on. So the first one is tissue tolerance and strength. Building the knee down is important. People always go, it's this movement, it's this, yes, those as well, but we also need to build the knee down. This is the tissue that is getting wrecked, it's being overused. So if it's just extremely strong, it's gonna be able to kind of push through the problems that we have other places. But again, we wanna fix those other things as well. We're gonna talk about those after. This first section though, just the tissue tolerance and strength. So the first one is the knee over toe calf raises. Bent knee, really working on the soleus. If you have a seated calf machine like that, I would suggest you use it, but I'm trying to do these with as little equipment as possible. So you got the knees up through the shoulders in a straight line, the toes behind the knees, and then you're pushing yourself up, not pushing the knees forward here, but actually holding this position, squeezing the glutes too, because it's good for you, pushing yourself up and then guiding yourself back down. And about 20 of those is a great number. Start training the soleus specifically, which is that muscle in here, which I also have a lot of scar tissue because, you know, shin splints. Then we got the cat stretch. So this is a variation. You can do this one on the ground. I have also a bunch of videos going over the cat stretch specifically, but to teach you again, we got the foot on a platform, pushing the knee forward, getting that stretch. And then the most important part is we're pulling up the big toe like this as we sink the hips down. This is gonna get a pretty deep stretch. Most people say they feel it in the Achilles. It could possibly be the Achilles, could also be the inner calf muscles, kind of like the FHL and things, especially when you start pulling the toe. Yeah, we need to open all those up. So no matter which ones you're feeling, we need to work on them. So that's where this stretch really starts working in. And then I want you to kind of push through it, move around, compress the core, try to feel how small you can make yourself, how straight you can make your back, pushing the hip forward. Moving around in it is going to be extremely important for the cat stretch. And the last one is tibialis raises, which for me, they didn't help that much. I had medial shin splints. Tibialis ties from the outside around, typically where people get kind of the lateral shin splints, which just means if you have the pain on the outside versus the inside. Lateral is the outside. They're more common, typically easier to fix. Medial, typically more related to the soleus and structural movement. So the tibialis raise is the last one. It's gonna really help if you have those lateral calf or lateral shin splints. How are we gonna do this one? Lean back on a wall or a pole, anything sturdy. Just lift the toes up and then control back down. The biggest problems I see, people go up and go, ugh. Like, we do not want to be doing that. Nice and slow going up, control back down. Nice and slow going up, control back down. Getting that burning sensation in the tibialis where it feels very muscular is gonna be beneficial. It's blood flow, which is gonna help heal the shin splints. Then you're gonna wanna get to a tib bar where you're really building that strength. But as I said in the beginning, we're going with very little equipment, especially for this first section. So those three are gonna be the most important for you to start doing for your shin splints. Nice and simple to follow. And then we will move to the next section, which is the posterior chain. So So the number 2 section, building that posterior chain, extremely important. One is gonna help with deceleration. So when you're messing up the shins, typically, because you're slamming them into the ground, which if you use your muscles properly, you don't have to slam the shins into the ground. So that's why this is so important. Also, when this is weak, your movement mechanics are extremely difficult to fix. So that last section, when we're going over the movement mechanics, if you don't have posterior chain to help control the mechanics, we got a little problem. It's like we're at a yellow light and it's never turning red or green. So build that posterior chain, make it a green light, just go. Here's the 3 movements I suggest you start to do. We got the hip pinned RDLs, activating the toes. A lot of this stuff is going to be tied all the way through the feet because we want the chain to work in tandem all the way through the feet, because you might have really strong RDLs, really strong glutes, but no connection in through the calves and the plantar fascia, and that might be why we have shin splints, maybe. So we got RDLs, hip pinned, the heels are elevated, and then we're sinking down to where we can, and we're gonna hold this position, really feeling the stretch in the back of the knee, hamstring. Some people even feel it quite a bit in the calf, and then pushing back up to the top, controlling back down. I suggest you go slow to start. I'm gonna show you from the side as well. And I'll give you a few of the problems that I see. So we'll use this pole. It's not that uncomfortable, even though it looks that way. We got the heels up, hips pushed back. Back is straight, loading everything into the chain below the hips. The knees often like to go bend. We don't want that. We want to keep them slightly bent, but more behind or in line with the ankles. And then we also don't want it to curl at this moment. So we want to keep that back nice and straight. So if you can keep those 2 things in mind, you're going to have a lot better results with these hip pinned RDLs. And of course, going slow. Next one is the reverse hypers. You'll see a video here. We call it the exaggerated reverse hyper, where we have the toes coming up at the bottom to get the whole stretch. Basically, you want the whole posterior side to stretch as you go there. And then as you go up, you're pointing the toes like this, stretching now the front, activating the whole backside. As you get this in time, it's gonna help with the coordination of your feet throughout your body, but also gonna train the posterior chain. If you can get 30 to even 40 reps of that movement, it's gonna help you a ton with good old shins and the rest of your body and movement. You know, we're trying to fix the shins, but we also don't want to cause another problem. So let's fix all the problems together, you know? The last one is the ATG lunge. So we're here, pushing forward, dropping all the way down with control, and then pulling through that front foot. You look at it again, we got that front foot, boom, pulling this glute to go to the next step. We're going down. I'll do it again here. We got split squat all the way forward. Boom, pulls to here. Boom, pulls. So when I say pull, I want that front foot to pull like imagine you're like a horse or a bull. Like that. What I don't want to see, and what won't really help you, is this version of the lunge. Most common mistake with that. I do suggest you get a very developed split squat before you really dig into these lunges. But these lunges are what I've seen help the shins the most, because you're getting so much leverage in through the foot and then pulling you forward like you're doing a sprint, but you can load it quite a bit and really develop the whole action from the toes to fascia, to the calf, to the hamstring, to the glutes, keeping your back up, core compressed. All that important stuff is tying together. So those are the 3 for the posterior chain. And now let's get into the last ones, the movement mechanics. Section 3. movement mechanics. This is where we get into plyometrics and also how you are running. So there's a little more talking, less actual movement demonstration, but it is extremely important for the longevity. Maybe you get all the strength, you're feeling good, you get back to whatever sport you play, say soccer, say track, and then you're running on top of bad mechanics over and over again. It doesn't matter how strong you are. It's like using a screwdriver to eat pancakes. It's just not gonna be that efficient. So even if the screwdriver is really strong, it just doesn't work very well. So what we wanna do is dial in the movement mechanics, dial in the elasticity of your body to really spring into action. So we're gonna cover the elasticity first. Jump rope is really good, but I actually like pogo hops a little bit better because you can focus a little bit more. When people are jump roping, they're trying to think about the rope, they're hitting the rope against their feet, they get defeated, whatever. It's really not that bad. It's good for coordination as well. We're gonna start with the pogo hops. Nice and light, and we're just building up, trying to spend as little time as we can touching the ground and even slapping the feet against the ground while we do this. So it's really exaggerating the slap of the feet. I'm gonna see how long I can go with that. What you're also seeing is I'm lifting up the toes while I'm there. I'm not pointing down each time. Now, there's different variations, but I want you to do this one where you're lifting up the toes. It's gonna get those tibialis pretty fired up and also teach you to lift up and then smack again. So while you're running, we want that as you're going through the motion, and that might not be happening because you get tired, you get weak when you're tired, and now your mechanics are off. So again, first one, pogo jumps, eventually building them up to where you're actually getting quite high with little time on the ground, making sure those heels are not touching the ground. If you can go for 5 minutes, you probably don't have shin splints. But start very light, go 20 seconds, go 10 seconds, then just build it up as time goes on. This is extremely important. Do these every off season. You can even do them almost every day, very light, and just build it up, like I said. So number 2 is sled sprints, forward and backwards. This is gonna create one, more unity in that posterior chain, but also really train up the tissue tolerance here while you're working a little bit more on mechanics. As you get tired, so sometimes doing sled sprints first and then running is gonna be a good key to work on these mechanics. So these guys, I guess number 2 is kind of tied with number 3, which is running analysis. Having somebody analyze your running, or even just doing it yourself and trying to look at somebody who is really good at running, like maybe Usain Bolt, he's pretty fast. You can analyze his mechanics versus your own, and then really go over like, what am I doing? Are my feet like slamming my heels against the ground? Normally it's not that obvious, but sometimes it is. And so we can just start tweaking things nice and slow. But we do need to do repetitions, because as soon as you get onto a sports field, you're no longer thinking about this mechanic. You're thinking about the ball, you're thinking about tackling, you're thinking about something else. And so these mechanics need to become second nature. Like you just do this while you run. You're gonna find that you're gonna run a lot faster, and it's just gonna be a lot easier, but it's gonna take time and repetition to dial it in to subconscious, so then when you run, it doesn't look like this. You know, we don't want that. We don't want any of that. We want good running techniques that are gonna really build up the strength and the coordination. So use sled sprints, forward and backwards. Videotape yourself doing running analysis on, well, you can have somebody do that. I can help you with that. Other people can help you with that. But you do need to understand what you're looking at with your running. How is your foot actually hitting the ground and then projecting through the next step? Are you running for sprinting? Are you running for long distance? Those are also, there's different things there. All those come together to really dial in, get your shins feeling wonderful. So just follow these 3 steps. If you want to know more, I think I go over like 18 to 20 exercises in the first shin splint video that really helps build up the tissue tolerance, and that's what we want to build. So different angles, very important, but these are the top 3 for each section. And I want you to have no more shin splints, check the description. There's a link to a full program that has all this mapped out for you, so you don't have to guess or think like, oh, how do I do this? But you can actually go through the program. It has me coaching you through each part. And if you sign up for the program, you can send some videos in where I can go over your movement like we're talking about. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll get you shin pain free.